The police kicked down my front door at 2:14 a.m. Their boots hit the floor harder than my heart did. 4 men, weapons drawn, shouting my name like I was a monster. I didn't run. I didn't shout. I stood in the hallway, hands raised, barefoot, in a t-shirt that still smelled like her perfume. My wife, Natalie, was curled up in the corner, sobbing. "He hit me," she cried. "He wouldn't stop." Blood on her lip. Bruises blooming on her neck like ink in water. Fingernail marks across her shoulder. The officer nearest to me looked disgusted. "Mr. Langford, get on your knees, now." I dropped without a word. Cold tile against my knees, metal against my wrists. Click, click. The neighbors stood outside in robes and slippers, watching, judging, recording. Natalie wouldn't meet my eyes. She didn't have to. She already knew I wouldn't fight back. Not yet. As they walked me out in cuffs, I glanced up at the hallway ceiling, to the tiny circular vent above the bookshelf. Inside it, buried behind drywall, sat a silent witness. A micro camera. My camera. The one she didn't know about. The one that saw everything. They shoved me into the squad car. No one read me my rights. No one asked for my side. I sat in silence, blood pounding in my ears, but my face calm, because I wasn't playing the part of an innocent man. I was playing the part of the guilty one, and I needed everyone to believe it, even her. They thought I was the villain. She made sure of it. But she didn't realize the story she wrote was being filmed from a better angle. They put me in a holding cell with one fluorescent light that never stopped buzzing. Cold concrete. A steel bench bolted to the wall. I could still taste the metal from the handcuffs. An hour passed, maybe 2. Then the door opened. "Mr. Langford," a voice said, "I'm your public defender, unless you've got someone better." I looked up. "I've got someone better." 30 minutes later, my attorney walked in. David Hallstrom, old friend, tactical mind, cold-blooded in a courtroom. He slid a manila folder onto the table between us. Thick, heavy, labeled, "People versus Lucas Langford." "They've got pictures," he said. "She filed a report with 3 witnesses, neighbors. Says it's been going on for months." I didn't react. "They're charging you with aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and spousal battery. If you fight it and lose, we're talking 10 years, minimum." Still, I didn't flinch. David narrowed his eyes. "Why aren't you panicking?" I leaned forward, voice calm. "Because the footage they think exists isn't the one that matters." He stared at me. I told him about the hidden system. 6 microcams embedded throughout the house, motion-activated, offline storage, no cloud, no tampering. "They're untouched," I said. "They've been recording everything since January." He blinked. "Why the hell didn't you tell me that first?" "Because I needed her to feel safe," I said. "And I needed you to believe me second." Back in the holding room, they brought in more photos. Natalie's face, her bruises, a bloodied bedsheet. "She's a goddamn Oscar winner," David muttered. I didn't say anything, just slid a USB drive across the table. "Start with footage from 1:47 a.m. to 2:10. Living room cam." "What's on it?" "Her script. She told the police I hit her, but the only person she hit was herself. And I made sure the camera never blinked." The living room camera kicked on at 1:47 a.m. She walked into frame alone, calm, barefoot, hair tied up, still wearing the silk robe from earlier that night. She looked around once, not at the walls, at the ceiling, where the obvious blinking camera sat. The one I installed just for her to notice. She smiled at it, then walked 2 steps to the left and knelt in front of the couch. From behind a cushion, she pulled out a small black kit, unzipped it. Inside, a bruising palette, 2 vials of fake blood. liquid latex, a makeup sponge still stained from prior use. She'd done this before. She dabbed red pigment below her lip, then smudged it with her thumb, tilted her head, assessing herself in a small mirror. Next, she took the vial of blood and flicked tiny droplets on the baseboard wall. Then she whispered, "Harder next time," like she was talking to herself, like she was rehearsing a role. At 1:53 a.m., she moved into the hallway. I watched the playback with David, both of us silent. She walked barefoot in a circle, hyperventilating on cue, slapped herself twice, then 3 more times with the back of her own hand. She pinched her throat, pressed her nails in hard enough to break skin, then smeared the redness just enough to look chaotic. She whispered again, "He's stronger than me. He just lost control." At 2:01 a.m., she screamed. No words, just a single, sharp cry, loud enough for the neighbors. 10 seconds later, she ran to the front door, slammed it shut to make it sound like a struggle, then curled up on the floor, right in view of the decoy camera, and waited. 2 minutes later, the police arrived. David paused the footage. He looked at me like I'd just handed him the Holy Grail. "Lucas, this buries her." I shook my head. "No, it saves her. For now." He blinked. "You're not going public?" "Not yet," I said. "She thinks she's winning. I want her to feel like she already won. Before I take it all back." She staged every detail. The bruises, the screams, the blood. But the only thing she didn't prepare for was the edit I would make. I made bail 2 days later. She didn't expect that. Thought I'd rot in a cell for weeks. But David worked fast, and I walked out without a scratch. No press, no protest, just one step closer to her stage. Natalie didn't call me, didn't message, didn't send a lawyer to negotiate. She didn't have to. She thought the silence meant fear, that I was embarrassed, broken, defeated. She had no idea it was the calm before I turned the courtroom into a theater. The next morning, I watched her live stream. She wore soft beige, minimal makeup, tearful eyes, perfect lighting, subtle sad piano in the background. "Abuse doesn't always leave scars on the outside," she said to 47,000 live viewers. "Sometimes it takes years before you can even admit the truth." Her voice cracked at all the right moments. She held up a printed photo, her face tear-streaked with the faintest bruise across her temple. I remembered the frame. It was taken 2 minutes after she hit herself, and 2 seconds before the cops showed up. "He used to say I was crazy," she said, "that I imagined everything." I sipped coffee and smiled, because everything she said was now part of the evidence file. David called. "We need to drop the bomb now. Leak the footage." "No," I said. "Not yet. She's going viral. There's a GoFundMe, a lawyer-sponsored podcast. She's milking this." "Good," I said. "Let her build the fire. I want the whole world to be watching when I put it out." I started playing along. I accepted the restraining order, declined interviews, issued a no comment when reporters called. I gave her full control of the narrative, because control is only dangerous when the other person thinks they have it. The only thing I posted, a photo, no caption, just a close-up of a lens from the ceiling cam. In the reflection, you could barely make out a woman in a robe. No one understood it, but she did, because 3 hours later, she messaged me, "Delete that." I replied with one word, "Soon." She thought I was playing dead, but I wasn't dying. I was watching. and I was recording the encore. Natalie's story caught fire. Not just local news, national. She was the woman who spoke up. Hashtag campaigns, domestic violence panels, podcast features. She got booked on a primetime special. Her side, survivors of silence. She wore ivory. She looked broken. She used my name exactly 3 times, just enough for legal deniability, and just enough to make it obvious. And every time someone asked, "Is he trying to silence you?" she would answer, "I'm not afraid of him anymore." She wasn't afraid because she thought I was powerless. Her campaign team posted a carousel of black and white photos of her injuries, captioned, "Survivors don't always survive alone." The photos were effective, authentic even, because they were staged by professionals. Her makeup, her bruises, her pain. All done through a boutique creative agency she didn't know I owned, under a shell name. 6 months before she framed me, she hired a PR agency for a personal brand rebuild. That agency outsourced photo production. That production house, mine. Every bruise she posted, every tear-streaked image, created by my team, under silent NDA. Each file digitally watermarked and time-stamped. Chain of custody, secured. She built her case with the evidence I built for mine. David reviewed it all with clinical precision. "This is too perfect," he said. "She won't even see it coming." "She will," I said. "That's the point. Because revenge only hurts if they realize you were smiling the whole time." She made one mistake. A post with a photo of her after an incident. Same robe, same bruise pattern. But this version had a filter applied. She left the metadata intact, and in that metadata was the name of the editing workstation. Mine. I sent her the raw version, the real one, via email. Subject line, "Thought you might want the original. This one's higher res." She didn't reply, but she deleted the post 6 minutes later. She thought she built her empire from pain. She didn't know every image, every word, every bruise was printed on paper I gave her. And I kept the negative. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, advocates, content creators, all there to watch the fall of a violent husband. The trial had become theater, and she was ready for her lead role. Natalie wore grey, minimal makeup, subtle pearls, a touch of trembling in her fingers. "Victims never forget the first time they stop feeling safe," she said. "I spent 5 years pretending I was okay. Every word rehearsed, every pause choreographed, and yet she sold it beautifully." Some jurors nodded. One woman wiped a tear. I didn't look at her, not once, because I knew her lines before she spoke them, word for word. A week earlier, one of my associates, a soft-spoken barista named Mia, had struck up a conversation with Natalie in a boutique cafe she frequented. "You're so brave to testify," Mia said. "You don't seem nervous at all." Natalie laughed. "Please, I've been reciting this crap in the mirror for months." She said it like a joke, but she said it on camera. She even showed Mia her printed notes, key phrases, dramatic cues, reminders like, "Pause here for effect. Look down before he choked me. Repeat." I felt small. She didn't know Mia worked for me. Didn't see the recording device in her necklace. In court, her voice cracked right on cue. "He said I made him do it, that I pushed him." She looked at the judge, then at me. I stared straight ahead. I thought love meant forgiveness, but I was wrong. Applause broke out in the gallery. The judge banged the gavel. Order. Natalie wiped her eyes. She had no idea I had footage of her practicing the exact same words in a bathroom mirror. David leaned toward me. We're going to destroy her on cross. No, I whispered. Let her rest. We'll do it later, with a better audience. She memorized every line, built the whole stage, and now she's standing in a spotlight that I wired to burn. After her testimony, Natalie was on top of the world. The headlines wrote themselves, "Brave wife faces abuser in courtroom showdown." 5 years of silence, broken with one sentence. She got a brand deal for a trauma recovery app, signed with a publisher for a memoir. They were already drafting the press release, and she still thought I was done. Still thought I had nothing left to say. The court scheduled my cross-examination for next week. David was ready to bury her with footage, but I had something else in mind, something even she didn't know I had. See, it wasn't just the security cameras. It wasn't just the makeup artist's metadata, or the PR agency paper trail, or even the barista recording her rehearsal notes. It was her voice, practicing over and over and over again. 3 weeks before the trial, Natalie stayed in a rental condo near Malibu. She said it was for space to heal. Really, it was to rehearse her court testimony with a friend, a struggling actress named Riley. She didn't know the building had paper-thin walls, or that the guy next door was a sound engineer, one who owed me a favor. The audio file landed in my inbox 6 days before trial, unedited, crystal clear. "Okay, say it again," Riley's voice said. "This time, add more shake to your hands." Then Natalie. He grabbed me by the throat and said I was lucky to be married to him. Giggle. "Is that too dramatic?" "No," Riley said. "That's perfect. Your eyes even watered that time." I didn't tell David. Not yet. I just saved it. And waited. That weekend, she went live again. On Instagram this time, in front of 62,000 people. Every time I speak, I take the power back. She ended with her tagline, "Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes." I smiled, because her voice did shake, but not for the reasons they thought. She thought I had no proof, but she rehearsed her lie too well. And the next time the world hears her voice, it won't be on her terms. Monday, day 4 of the trial. The courtroom was packed tighter than ever, standing room only. Reporters scribbled, cameras waited, and Natalie walked in glowing like she'd already won. Her lawyer, Douglas Keene, was a smug, sharp-dressed predator in a designer suit, grey hair, gold watch, the kind of man who didn't argue. He performed, and I let him. He started slow. "Mr. Langford, would you say you've ever had trouble controlling your emotions?" I stared forward, calm. "No." "Would you say your wife is lying?" "Yes." He fake smiled. "So you're saying all the physical evidence, her testimony, the neighbors, they're all part of a conspiracy?" "No," I said. "Just part of a show." He laughed. The courtroom chuckled. He was setting me up to look paranoid, dangerous, delusional, and I let him. "Let's talk about the night in question," he said. "You expect the jury to believe your wife staged injuries For attention, yes. Do you have any proof? Silence. I didn't speak. David didn't object, because we both knew what was coming next. Douglas turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, this man wants you to ignore bruises, 911 calls, police reports, and believe in a fantasy with no evidence. He walked back to Natalie, put a hand on her shoulder like a proud father. She's not an actress, she's a survivor. And right then, he handed me everything I needed. See, Douglas Keene had a secret. 5 years ago, he defended a celebrity in a domestic abuse scandal and lost, badly. So this case was his redemption arc. He'd told every media outlet this was about justice. But off record, he'd said something else, and I had it on tape. A junior associate in his firm, fresh out of law school, recorded him at the holiday party. Don't care if she's telling the truth. This one's about optics. We win, we get Netflix, we lose, we get buried. She sent it to me anonymously, but I recognized the voice. Same tone, same arrogance. So I kept it for just the right day. Today, he mocked me in court, told the world I was nothing. But the only thing worse than losing to a liar is realizing you were just a prop in her script too. The night before the final hearing, I saw my son. First time in 2 months. Supervised visit. Fluorescent lights. A counselor watching from behind glass. He was 7. Small for his age. Wiser than he should have been. He walked in quiet. Didn't run into my arms. Didn't smile. He just sat across from me, legs swinging beneath the chair. And then he asked, "Did you really hit Mommy?" There are no right answers to that question. If I say yes, I become the man she wants me to be. If I say no, I make him choose who to believe. So I said nothing. He looked down at his hands. She cries a lot now, but I saw her happy the next day. That caught me. Happy? Yeah, he said. She was laughing with a man on the phone, said something about finally being free. He blinked slowly. Then she cried again when I walked in. I wanted to tell him everything. Wanted to rip the curtain down, hand him the truth in black and white. But that's not what justice looks like. Not to a child. So instead, I reached into my coat, pulled out a folded photo, slid it across the table. It was from the hallway cam, a frame showing Natalie smearing fake blood on the wall while checking her reflection. He picked it up, looked close. That's our house. I nodded. I'll never lie to you, I said, but sometimes people who love us lie to themselves first. He didn't respond, but when the counselor came in to say time was up, he hugged me. Not tight, not long, but real. See you after Friday, he whispered. I didn't answer, because after Friday, everything would be different. She made me the villain in my son's eyes, but you can't fake love forever, and you can't edit what a child remembers. Friday morning, final hearing. Natalie wore navy this time, hair in a soft bun, glasses for sympathy optics. She carried a handkerchief folded perfectly in her palm. The jury already looked tired. Of me, of her, of everything. The judge sighed when I requested to speak. Mr. Langford, we've heard your attorney. Please don't waste the court's time. Just 2 minutes, I said, and a file. The judge stared, then nodded once. Proceed. David stood and pulled a small remote from his briefcase, plugged it into the court screen. The lights dimmed, the gallery leaned forward. Even Natalie finally looked at me, and I said, "This is the night she says I hit her," from a different angle. Then pressed play. First, the living room. Natalie kneeling beside the couch, opening the makeup kit, applying pigment. Then the hallway, her slapping herself, scraping her neck with her nails, smearing red across the wall. Next, the mirror rehearsal, practicing her lines, crying on cue, coaching herself out loud. Then, the final piece, the audio. "Try it again, more pain in your voice." He grabbed me by the throat. "Wait, is that too dramatic?" Laughter. "I swear I could win an Emmy with this." And the room was dead silent. You could hear someone breathe, then stop halfway through. Natalie didn't blink, just sat there frozen, her hand gripping the kerchief like it was holding her whole story together. And then came the last image, the digital metadata, a full list of timestamps, camera signatures, file ownership, every part of her case sourced from my evidence. The judge turned to her. "Miss Langford, do you have a response to this footage?" She opened her mouth, and nothing came out. I didn't look at her, didn't need to. I turned to the jury. She built her story. She chose the lighting, the camera, the costume. But truth isn't something you can stage, and justice doesn't care how good your performance is. The cut was clean, the lies were visible, and the courtroom, finally, was mine to direct. The jury deliberated for just under 2 hours. No one looked surprised when the foreperson returned with the verdict. On the charge of aggravated assault, not guilty. On the charge of false imprisonment, not guilty. On the charge of spousal battery, not guilty. But that wasn't the real win. The real win was what came after. David stood and handed the judge a sealed envelope. Inside, a formal motion to press criminal charges against Natalie Langford for perjury, obstruction of justice, and malicious prosecution. Her eyes widened, but the judge didn't even hesitate. Bailiff, detain Ms. Langford pending review. The handcuffs clicked louder than mine ever had, and for the first time in this entire saga, she looked afraid. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed me. "Mr. Langford, any comment for the media? How do you feel being exonerated? Will you forgive your wife?" I didn't answer. I just looked at the camera lens and said, "She asked the world to believe her story. I just gave them the full cut." By Monday, the chain reaction had begun. Her publishing deal was suspended. Her brand sponsors pulled out. Her Speak the Truth Foundation released a statement disavowing her. And her Instagram followers dropped by 80% in 24 hours. Every spotlight she turned on herself now burned her publicly. Her lawyer, Douglas Keene, the leaked audio of him chasing Netflix deals went viral. His firm suspended him. He issued a groveling apology, but it was too late. He wasn't the hero of a courtroom drama. He was just another actor in a bad script. Later that week, David met me for drinks. "You could sue everyone," he said. "Civil court, defamation, lost income." "No," I told him. "That would keep me tied to her. I've already given her enough of my life." He nodded slowly. "What now?" I smiled. Now I go home and rebuild what's real. She tried to bury me with a story, but I wrote the ending. And the best part? I didn't have to destroy her. The truth did it for me. It arrived on a Tuesday. Plain envelope. No return address. Just my name, written in handwriting I knew better than my own. Natalie. The return address was a correctional facility 2 states away. Minimum security. Probably somewhere she could still pretend she wasn't ruined. I didn't open it. I didn't burn it either. I just stared at it for a long time, then slid it into the drawer beside my son's drawings and my father's old watch. Some lies don't deserve a reply, and some apologies come too late for the truth to care. It's been 5 months since the verdict. My name is clean. My face isn't on tabloids anymore. My son sleeps through the night again, and I no longer live in a house built on surveillance. Now it's just a home, with quiet. He asks about her sometimes, and I never speak poorly of her. I just say, some people get lost inside stories they create for other people, but we don't have to follow them in. He nods. He's strong. Stronger than I was at that age. The world moved on from her. The hashtags disappeared. The speeches stopped. She's just another scandal now. A cautionary tale. One that won't get a sequel. I still have the original footage. Locked away. Not for leverage, not for proof. Just to remind myself how close a lie can get to becoming real, if you let it go unchallenged. Final line, she told the world I hurt her, but all I did was let her speak. And when you give a lie enough room, it destroys itself.